Were you able to navigate using English? And did you need to learn the local language?
In my experience, Egypt was the most difficult. I think it's a little bit arrogant for you to come in another man's country and expect and be upset that they don't speak English. Like, who are you, bro? Did you feel safe in your neighborhood and city?
I think it was the first or second revolution. Somebody from the store owed another dude money, and it went out of control. So guns came out. You know what I mean? And buildings literally like this close, so you could jump onto somebody else's balcony. Right? Yeah. But they're shooting up, and somebody's shooting from the balcony. So you'd be surprised. But this is like the worst. This is the worst of the worst.
First question from the community is, did you feel safe in your neighborhood and city?
Yeah, that wasn't no issue. I mean, you know, as kids, you hear about certain things that happen in, you know, in the neighborhood, and you feel away, but it wasn't a lot. It wasn't a lot going on, especially now growing up, and you know, and thinking back on it, it was nothing really that was that fearful. I mean, the worst is like, okay, people got knives, or you know, people, you know, arguing with each other, but it's usually, for the most part, petty. It's not in your face. At least when I was growing up. I mean, now of course it would be slightly different, but from what I can recall, the worst was, I think after the first, I think it was the first or second revolution. It was like a huge thing going on in the area, and at that time we were in a rough neighborhood, so it was funny, but it was over some petty junk. You know, somebody from the store owed another dude money, and it went out of control. So guns came out. You know what I mean? And buildings literally like this close, so you could jump onto somebody else's balcony. Right? But they're shooting up, and somebody's shooting from the balcony. So you'd be surprised. But this is like the worst. This is the worst of the worst. Other than, you know, minus the whole protest of getting caught up in, you know, all by at the time or whatever. But that was like I think that was like the most shocking. Well, at that time I was still relatively young, so I was, you know, you're excited and you're like, yo, what's going on? Yeah. Funny enough. Right, throughout all of that, guns being brought out, shooting and all that, when somebody did get shot, they stopped. Everybody stopped. It was just dead silent. And they rushed that man to the hospital. No. Retarded. Like, you bring out the weapons, right? Yeah. Intending to use it. Yeah. But when somebody gets shot, they got shot in the thigh, right? They wrapped him up, carried him into a car, and they drove him off to the hospital.
The same people that shot him?
The same people. He stopped. I'm telling you, it was the craziest thing. They stopped. Wrapped him up. They took him in a car and drove him off to the hospital. The rest of his buddies kept fighting. But everybody stopped though. Yeah. Funny enough, everybody stopped.
So I mean, in general.
But in general, no. In general, you're okay. The ladies have a different, you know, they probably have a different, you know, perspective on it. But for the most part, you can be out late at night. You know what I mean? Depending on the area, but relatively like.
Because I remember you guys used to go and play ball, innit? You guys used to go and play basketball and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah, we used to go around to the areas. They had a natty out there. But it was no issue.
There was no issue, basically.
No issue. You know what I mean? You could stay out late and all that. Egypt is safe, by the way. Like, let's make that clear. But even if you are in the ghetto of the ghetto, it's still, for the most part, some type of, you know, there's principles. There's certain things you just can't do. Yeah. You know what I mean? So seeing somebody wrongfully get beat down and robbed in broad daylight is unacceptable. You see what I mean?
So you'll find other people that won't be standing by looking.
They won't stand by looking, and you know, they will help you for the most part. They will help you. And I remember that because we were in a rough neighborhood, right? And our neighbors downstairs, she was I think a single mother, and she had a few children, I think 2. And it was the middle of the night, it was like 2 in the morning, 3 in the morning. And she was screaming, thief, thief. She was going,
haram.
Yeah. So nobody was responding. I heard it, but I was like, what is going on? She opened the shutters and screamed again. It was about 15 people running up to the building. So they caught dude in the hallway, beat him down, and took him out. Right. So at the end of the day, it's like, it's not acceptable. Yeah, it's just not acceptable. You know, whether at night, broad daylight, it's just not acceptable.
So, I mean, what would you think if you look back at that experience now and you reflect back? If that woman had been a foreign woman, single mother with 2 children, and shouted out "Harami, Harami," do you think do you think the reaction would have been the same?
I believe it would be the same. It would be the same.
No.
If not even worse, because most of the time with foreigners, you build a relationship in the area. They would back you. You know what I mean? Because they know you're spending money in the area.
Yeah,
you know what I mean? They know you have a different perspective. You come from somewhere else. So there's a little bit of
protectionist.
There's a little bit more Yeah. So they kind of feel for you in a way, especially if you're learning. They see your growth. They got your back. They got your back.
That needs to be stressed a little bit, like, because obviously, you know, our audiences are going to be seen as foreigners going into somebody else's country,
right?
And safety is going to be priority for them. So the scenario that you just brought up obviously was about a native screaming out for help. So to some people, where okay, well, I'm a foreigner. What would happen? What would have happened if I screamed for help? People are going to be like.
I mean, you know, the thing is, like, you hear stories. Like, we heard stories where, you know, that's the thing, though. That's the thing. I believe that a woman shouldn't really even be walking around without a mahram. I mean, that's just what I believe. In cases where, you know, that's not an option, or a single mother got small children, there are stories where, you know, they tuk-tuk come by, or an ashut, or in different areas where somebody, you know, snatches something or pushes the lady down or whatever, and she's screaming, and people like catch on a little later. You know what I mean? As opposed to where if it's a local or a native, is not flying. You know, people would stop in the middle of the street or hit them with the car. You know what I mean? And I've seen that clear as day. But I've heard stories, but they would still help.
And it's funny you should mention, obviously, your experiences in Egypt, but they have the same thing in Tanzania. Like if a woman is attacked or about to be robbed or whatever, or you catch a thief in your compound and you scream out thief or the Tanzanian or equivalent, the whole neighborhood does come out.
So they deal with it on their own.
They deal with it before you better pray that the police come before they finish dealing.
I like that. Yeah.
But we don't have it in our prospective country. We don't have it in our home nations.
Yeah, that's
because you probably get arrested for beating a thief.
Right.
Do you know what I mean? But
or
here,
home invader.
But in this side of the world, it's like a cultural thing.
Yeah.
Like if you call out for help, and the community hears your cry for help, the community are coming to sort you out.
Right.
I remember in Hijrah, they caught a thief, 2 thieves, little young boys, breaking into a shop. Bro, they tied them up.
Oh yeah, that is another culture.
Yes.
They tied them up.
They tied them up.
Stripped them sometimes.
Yeah, stripped them, and they beat them until the police came. Do you see what I'm saying?
Right.
Yeah. So
I like that, yeah.
No.
Oh, that's the interesting thing. So in terms of safety, I would say for the most part, you should be all right.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? You should be all right. Otherwise, you know, if you're doing something wrong, you know, you have cases like that as well, where the foreigners are in the wrong. You know what I mean? Or through misunderstandings.
Yeah.
You know, therefore everybody's jumping you, and you might not know at the time.
Yeah.
I mean, this happened to some friends. You know what I mean? So it happens where, you know, you come from a hostile environment, and, you know, somebody, you know, says something to you or looks you a certain type of way or flicks you off even. You know, you have ignorant people everywhere.
Yeah.
And in Egypt, you know, it could be, you know, they saying whatever to you. You misunderstand it, and you start you start beating somebody down. Everybody around is not going to be on your side.
Yeah, of course.
They're going to beat you down. And then you might think, oh, they jumped me.
Because I'm a foreigner. Nah, bro. It's because you overstepped the line.
You did something wrong, but you don't understand that because you just, you know, you behave well. You know, you respect the people around you. You build a relationship. You don't have no issue. You know? Regardless, you shouldn't have an issue. Regardless, right?
Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. This is your brother Hamza from the Make Hijra channel. Now, many of you have requested consulting services from us, so we have created a page just for you.
So, were you able to navigate using English, and did you need to learn the local language? That's an interesting one.
No. In my experience, Egypt was the most difficult out of Egypt, Malaysia, and Tanzania. Egypt was the most difficult. But I think in those 3 countries, you will find that in their educational system anyway, English is a topic. English is a subject that they have to learn.
Right.
Because when they want to study like degree or whatever, it's all done. It's all taught in English. But getting through, like you will always like even if the person you're speaking to doesn't speak English, somebody around you
right.
interjects and says, "Oh, etc., etc., etc."
Right.
Do you know what I'm saying? But I don't think it's. I think it's a little bit arrogant for.
Yeah, for you to
For you to come in another man's country and expect and be upset that they don't speak English. Like, who are you, bro?
Right.
Really and truly. But my experience has been positive. The most difficult time I had was in Egypt. But after a little while, I mean, because I personally have a phobia against languages. I don't know what it is, bro. I just have a mental block. So after a while of continuously making the same mistakes, making the same mistakes, I started to pick up words slowly but surely, and I would interject it within my English. So it got to a point where he's back again. We know what he wants. You know what I mean? Or when I took a bus, you know what I mean? I would just put it in my, you know what I mean? But I think it's important that we try and learn.
So, but do you feel it's a must? Do you feel that you should? Do you feel that in your case you made a mistake?
Yeah. I think that you have to come with the mindset, especially if you come into a country that you think, okay, this is now home.
Right.
Yeah. One of the priorities, one of the first things any family need to look at is learning the language. And not just pushing your children to learn the language and you're gonna push your child in front to interpret for you.
There's a problem with that too. There's a problem with that because you won't know what's going on.
Yes.
If you don't know the language, you're at that point you're just confused.
I mean, because I think one of the questions that we get asked is, what is the prospect for business in that country? We've had that question many a time.
Right, exactly.
Right,
so the language is like, come on.
The prospect for business is good, but how are you going to communicate?
Right.
So once you communicate, you can go and speak to a lawyer and find out what the laws are and all that kind of stuff, rather than hearing it secondhand, because you're depending on secondhand information.
I believe though you can still do business. I mean, depending on how you come, but you can still do business with people that, of course, for the most part, deal in English. I mean, you have that, but at the same time, it's like you have to know the language to really dig deep. Like, okay, what am I getting into right now?
Yes. I mean, like take the Egyptian example take the Egyptian example. A lot of students, or a lot of people come here and they learn the Fusha. The classical Arabic. And they speak to the Egyptians in classical Arabic. All right, you're killing two birds with one stone. But I personally believe if you want to be accepted in and respect, learn the Amia.
You have to. I believe you have to. You know, Fusha, I mean, that's great. That's great. But you have to be able to will and deal and build a relationship with the people. You have to. And that's through Amia. You have to speak that dirty. I mean, no disrespect to Amia, but you have to speak that dirty. You know, sometimes you just vibe with them differently.
I mean, that was my next question to you. Did you find that because you speak the Amia, it was more of a relaxed?
That's interesting. Like being able to connect was important. So growing up, funny enough, we was in different markets and whatnot, and for the most part, it was Fusha. Like that was our focus. It was at a point in time growing up, we were actually speaking it in the home and at the house. I started to dislike Fusha because every time I would go out and try to speak it, it would just be, you know,
people look at you with a frown.
People look at you retarded. Like, what are you talking about here? And so I started to just say, you know what am I learning? So I lost respect for it. I mean, I'm young. You just at that point in your life, you're forced to learn Fusha. Right? You don't really have a say so. You might be interested, whatever. But at that point, it was just like something I was forced to do. Then when I started learning Amia, it was completely different. I could connect with my neighbors. I would go out. I would speak to everybody. For the most part, it was a relationship being built in the community. They'd be like, oh, that's Abdurrahman, I'm lit. You know what I mean? You connect. Habibi, whatever it is. Awesome. So it's there. You know what I mean? That connection is being built. But through Fusha, they just like, we ain't going to see this
you're a student.
You know what I mean? You're a student or whatever. Talib or something. Anyway, so.
But you answered my question. Thanks for that. But just to round it off, I would say, generally speaking, my experience as not being able to speak the language, you will find the majority of people that will be able to help you. communicate.
Yeah.
But I would always emphasize, don't follow my example. Like, go there with the intention of learning the language, especially if you're going to go to that place and make that your place of residence.
So what about other countries? I mean, let's speak on Malaysia, for example.
Mm-hmm.
Do you feel you really need to learn the language? Like I said,
It's
Malaysia is a different one.
was like,
It's an interesting one. Like,
everybody speaks English in Malaysia.
yeah, that's what I'm saying. So in that case, would you say the same?
I
mean, Arabic is a special thing. Like, by the way,
yeah.
we should actually, exclude Egypt for the point that they do speak Arabic, and you should. For the most part, if you're making hijra or whatnot, you want to learn Arabic, so it's a little different.
No,
but if
in
you
Malaysia,
would you?
Yeah, in Malaysia, even though we didn't need to speak, there was.
But I tried though. I was actually speaking it. I was getting on a bus.
Yeah, but I would end off by saying that to be respectful,
right,
learn their language.
Right.
Because, like, for example, if you ever have to deal with law enforcement, for example, or visa issues, can you imagine the difference of that transaction being if you're able to speak Malay?
Right.
Rather than you going there, yes, I'm a foreigner, and you're having to speak my language to tell me the rules of your country. The relationship becomes different if I'm turning up to your counter, whether it's immigration or police, and I'm a foreigner, yes, but I'm speaking in Malay because I have respect for your country.
Yeah, that's
that transaction is going to be
check
totally
it out
different.
though. If you were in Egypt and you would speak, because you could get away with a lot.
Yeah.
Let's be for real. Like, there's sometimes where people would just switch, completely brand new. I'm green. I don't know what's going on.
Yeah.
So they just start speaking. Right.
Yeah.
And the people, they just don't want to deal with it. They're like, I'm getting. So they just let somebody slide with something. You know what I mean? Whether you broke the law, you did something like that, you just turn green on them.
Yeah.
I mean, they might say, okay, give me a couple, whatever, and you slide off. You're good.
So it can help. It can help.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. It can help depending on the country and the situation. You know what I mean? In Malaysia, I think they respect you. For the most part, I've seen that. They respect you if you know it.
They've got this customer service attitude.
Right. But Egypt is kind of leaning towards, like, everybody's trying to speak English. They feel like that's a new thing. You know what I mean? So they're going towards that anyway.
Yeah.
Here at Make Hijrah, our goal is to bring you the latest information on what's going on in the Muslim world, ensuring that you're able to make informed decisions on how and where to make hijrah. But we can't do this without your support. If you value this cause, go to fund.makehijrah.com to support our productions. Your contribution allows us to travel throughout the Muslim world to give you a clear picture of what your options actually are. Whether it's a one-time or continuous donation, every bit helps us to continue producing content for you. Jazakallahu khairan for your support. Now back to the video.
Okay, so our next question from the community is, what recreational activities and sports are popular among young people?
That's a good one right there. I like that. It's usually the activity that everybody indulges in that country, depending on your age and when you arrive, right? For the most part, is whatever is popular in that country. For example, let's just say Egypt. You land in Egypt or you touch down in Egypt, depending on your age, you're say from 10 going to 15, 20. For the most part, it'll be soccer. You know what I mean? They play soccer. Actually, basketball is becoming popular now. So people are playing basketball now. You could get into also tennis. Now it's a little different. You have options. You have variety. You know what I mean? Back then it was different. You know what I mean? But now you have a variety. So I'll say soccer is the most popular in Egypt. You can also jump into basketball. And now they have, basketball courts, natties and so on. That's about it. Those are the two major.
Soccer.
But majorly soccer.
So you didn't grow up with baseball then, really and truly, did you? Bro?
Nah.
Never mind. Never mind.
Nah. And not even, like, I would say also swimming. Actually, swimming too. Like, a lot of people do swim. For people I know as well. Like, foreigners come here. A lot of friends that I know, they do go to a natty. A natty is basically a place where you have multiple activities that you can just choose from. You know what I mean?
So for those who don't know, a natty is what exactly?
Yeah, it's basically like a club. right? You would
Sports
just say
club.
it's a sports club, and you go in there, you know, whatever membership or whatnot. But when you go in there, it's like you have from festivals, you know, small little, you would call it like a bazaar shopping area, restaurants here and there, because it's quite big. You know what I mean? It's not what would you. They have some small ones that's attached to a school, but an actual natty, which is a huge sports club, its joint is huge. It takes up on the major cities here like Rehab, Medinity. They have it to where it takes up a lot of the center of the city. So you go in there, you could be in there for a while. You have all types of activities in there.
So swimming,
you have all that.
soccer,
even jiu-jitsu,
basketball.
Boxing, you know, wrestling if you want to get into it. They have a lot.
Are they
surprised.
taught that, like, especially
Aikido.
like the wrestling and the jiu-jitsu and all that? It's taught by qualified instructors and all that kind
That's
of
the
stuff.
thing that's interesting. I mean, independent of the sports club, you do have it where they come from, like jiu-jitsu especially, where they come from, like, you know, the line of, or maybe the Gracies or some honorable, you know. But for the most part, when we went into the boxing, they did have a boxing gym. Funny enough, I think he was an Egyptian. It was the Egyptian. So most of the time, it would probably be a local. But in some cases, like I said, independent of the sports club, you have like the Russians. You know, they well known, like the Russians, the Chechens, Uzbekis, the Kazakhs. All of them, they do have their own spots. Usually, it's low key, depending on the area. But now you see it to where, like, you know, even the French as well, right? There's a lot of French, and they high level in jiu-jitsu. But they have it there. You'd be surprised. But in terms of activities that are normal, right, is soccer, you know.
One time in Rehab, they had a soccer tournament sponsored by Liverpool. And I believe that they had a football tournament for young kids that was actually sponsored by Liverpool at one time. And I was kind of shocked when I saw it.
Right.
Yeah. So, yeah, I mean, for sports and recreational stuff for kids and adults, it is here.
Yeah, it's here. It's definitely here. And it's like I said, the variety is just, you know, is there. Now you have a variety. You know, and it's only growing from this point.
At MakeHijra.com, we're dedicated to helping Muslims like you make the move to the Muslim world with ease. Our latest project is the Hijrah Readiness Assessment Test, a short, insightful survey designed to help you identify your strengths and areas for improvement on your Hijrah journey. Visit hijratest.com now and start your journey towards a successful Hijrah, inshallah.